Heroes in the house this morning. It's the last Wednesday of the month, so we get Wayne Sallade in. And I got you just for one more month, huh?
Yeah. Generally, that's what we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got you in the end of November. You can call it off if you want, if you don't see anything coming, but let's have a wrap up.
Well, the problem's going to be the end of October. I'm going to be gone. So
Okay.
It's a Halloween.
That's
that
what
last
we do.
Wednesday's the 31st. So maybe do it on if you can, if the 24th is open.
Yeah.
You could do it then.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
All right.
With Wayne this morning is Lynn Stickley, who's been here before. She's an emergency planning specialist with the county.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Lynn?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we got a caller ready for you.
Okay.
You can take over court style, fastest moving on radio.
There you go.
Good morning. Yeah, I don't disagree.
That's a
with
point we didn't get to, and he's right. That's another thing. That's the one problem I really do have. They're letting games are out of control.
Oh, the Baltimore.
You're going to
Patriots
have
game.
somebody get hurt before it's all
And
over.
it could be one of those officials.
And, he's right. There's those other guys. The other officials will stop those types of activities before.
Well, they know how to control a game.
Yep.
Thank you, caller. Very
They know
good.
what to say. Is the key.
Watching
So
the
anyway.
New England and Baltimore game on Sunday night, I thought somebody's going to get hurt physically.
Oh, by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to call you on that. A kick, good or not, is not reviewable by video. They cannot make a determination. And when you looked at that, it went right over the top of that post.
But
So
it's
it's almost impossible. I know,
It's supposed to
but
be
there's
inside.
no way to
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
when it's above. It's purely a
But
judgment.
do they not have a camera on the back of the goalpost?
Yeah, but that they will not review.
So
They
once
will not review
an
kicks.
official's decision is made, you
On a kick.
On a kick.
on a kick,
Yeah.
you can't go back and
No.
look at it and
No.
say, well,
No,
it really
there's no
wasn't-
review.
No.
And the NFL, there is a review of plays in the end zone, and that's why that play the other night was reviewable. And they said, that it was a good catch, but they did miss. They acknowledged missing the offensive pass interference, which was about a third-degree assault felony.
Yeah, well, yeah, it
Anyway.
was. And we're, more than just about three-quarters of the way through hurricane season with this month?
Well, no, we're 5 months through, or not 5 months. We're going to be 4 months through the 6-month season.
Right.
So 2/3,
Yeah.
okay, of the season will be down the end of this week, early next week. But the peak of the season, the activity where we get concerned, your hurricanes. We just passed the anniversary of Rita earlier this week. Rita was the storm that followed after Katrina up in the Louisiana, Texas area, slammed into Texas and caused the evacuation, the largest evacuation in American history.
Yeah.
You had 2 million people trying to get out of Houston, basically. And more people died in the evacuation than died in the storm.
And a lot of those people were from Katrina.
That was the one that killed the 35 elderly folks in the bus. The bus caught fire on
Right.
going up to Dallas, trying to get them up there.
Yep.
But yeah, that was Rita. September 22nd was the anniversary of the great Hurricane Hugo up in South Carolina, up in your
Charleston.
neck of the woods where you play golf, all the way up to Myrtle Beach. So we're peeling past a lot of the records of storms. We still have the anniversary of Wilma to go, which was the worst hurricane in Fort Lauderdale since 1950, the impacts that they had in
And
Broward County.
I was quite shocked at it because Wilma came across to the south of us.
Well, and here's what happened with Wilma, and this is really a good lesson to learn, and we've talked about this for a long time. You and I have talked about it. When a storm comes across the south tip of, and I call the south tip of Florida anything from 150 miles from the lake south, is the south tip of Florida, okay? What is that part of the state of Florida? It's flat, it's wet, and it's hot, okay? Storms do not lose much punch when they go over that area. And the thing was with Wilma, because of the direction she was traveling, took everybody by surprise. Remember, hurricanes normally travel east to west, okay? Mm-hmm. So the genesis of the storm's power was coming from land as they cross over the state of Florida.
Right.
They're pulling down there's friction, there's dry air. Wilma came from the southwest, went over the Yucatan, all right, dropped 4 feet of rain on Mexico,
And did
and
a
then got
full
caught.
U-turn.
Well, got caught in that front that was coming down. That front was sliding down the state, and it rocketed across the Gulf of Mexico into South Collier County. But it didn't have, I mean, it wasn't overland that long, and much of its inflow, that's the in exhaust, what's pulling it. Remember an engine on a car?
Yeah.
It pulls air in, right? Through the
Right.
carburetor,
Right.
shoots it out through the exhaust.
Right.
If you have a good intake and a good exhaust, you're not going to lose anything.
Which
And that
Wilma
storm
did.
did not lose anything as it crossed Florida. And when it got to the East Coast, everything was coming out of the southeast and slammed into coastal Broward County.
Okay, let me piggyback on that and ask
Mm-hmm.
about Charlie. Why Charlie was still going 100 and something miles an hour when it hit Orlando?
Size, small, very small.
Okay.
So the degradation of Charlie was a much longer evolution. It took a lot longer for him to wind down because he was very tiny. Okay, his core held together very well. That shows you how well formed Charlie was. Charlie was the perfect formation, albeit very small, the smallest major hurricane ever. But that's the reason, was because he was so small that he held together. There weren't enough factors could
Okay,
influence
okay.
him to start to break him down.
That's a question I've been asking you for quite a long
But
time.
he was a 1 when he went out at, he brought winds over 100 miles an hour at Orlando International Airport.
I know, that's
First
what I'm
time in
saying.
history.
That's why I'm saying, because it was a hurricane and it hit land right after it left here, and it was over land
Right.
for the whole day.
But
It didn't lose that much.
I think that also explains to you why we saw such outrageous damage in Arcadia. We saw that 90% of the business district of Wauchula taken out by
Yeah.
Charlie. He was an extremely intense hurricane.
Without question. Joining us with Wayne this morning, Lynn Stickley. And Lynn, what's your primary role working with Wayne and stuff? Because I know you're emergency care, but what is that entitled?
Yeah, one of my major projects is reviewing and approving the emergency operation plans for the healthcare facilities in the county. That includes the assisted living facilities, hospitals, nursing homes. We have our first adult daycare center that just came aboard last year. So reviewing their plans, making sure that they have everything, all their ducks in a row. If we ask them to evacuate, that they've got their agreements in place with vendors, transportation,
Wow.
Cisco, all the food and such to get them out of town.
How many of those facilities do we have in Charlotte County?
There's 37 total. That's also including the ambulatory surgery centers that we review.
Okay.
But they're not as much a major concern to me because they're just going to reschedule their appointments and close their doors. And if we need to utilize them after the storm for surgery centers, we have that option as well. My main concern is a lot of them are in an evacuation zone. That really scares me. We've got at least 6 facilities right now that are in a red zone, which is anywhere from 0 to 7 feet of storm surge is going to inundate their facility. So that was my goal with them when we did an exercise in April. It was the first time our department actually did it in the history of Wayne's history. I've only been with them almost 5 years in November, and we came across a grant that allowed us to do this, and I brought in all the administrators from those facilities. And we exercised their emergency operation plan in a tabletop exercise. It was
Wow.
so successful. I had 90% participation. So we rocked it. It was really educational for them. Our objectives was to have them shelter in place or evacuate, and their internal command structure, making sure they have the communication with their chain of command. If
That's
we ask
super.
them to evacuate.
What was most gratifying about that whole experience was the comments from those folks after about how extremely valuable that was to them and to their staffs and to what they would then go back and be able to do back at their facility. A lot of this harkens back to what we watched horrifically 7 years ago go on in New Orleans, where people died in nursing homes, people were left in hospitals, people were and there have been some heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching books written about those experiences by the medical professionals who felt abandoned in that situation because they weren't the ones that had been remiss in not putting these plans together. So it really makes us feel good when we know that we've done something that will benefit the greater good of the medical community.
We go to Tommy right now with our weather forecast. We'll also check on traffic for you.